Hello, and a warm welcome to Aline with Aline podcast. This week, we are sharing the space with the wonderful Susanne Neff. She has so generously come on to talk with us about her experience with equine therapy and the beautiful new project that she is currently working on, and it's incredible. Susanne has been working with horses for over 20 years now. We're working with horses and people. She's worked for the Pirelli Academy, and now she is offering workshops online in German for German listeners and is involved in a very, very beautiful project. And she's come on today to talk about how she first found her affinity with horses, tell us her story, and explain to us all about the project and give us some tips in how we can become closer with nature and work with nature for healing. So a huge welcome, Susanne. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Aline.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So as I mentioned, you've been working with horses for over 20 years now, and you've come on to share with us. So how did you first realize that you had such an affinity with and a sensitivity working with horses?
Well, my grandfather, he used to work with horses and he was my big role model, I have to say. He
Wow.
did logging with horses, and so he pulled wood out of the forest with the draft horses and brought the trees to the mill with the horses. So he worked all his life with horses, and I always wanted to get closer to my grandfather. So this was my way of approaching my grandfather because I could always find him in the stables with the horses. So I just snuck in and cleaned the stables and whatever to get his attention, basically. And then he would show me how to brush them and took me on the carriage ride or whatever. And this was
Oh.
how it all started, really.
So how old were you when you were creeping into the stables and learning how to groom and being with your grandfather?
I don't know. I have pictures from me sitting on a horse from when I was really little, and were just holding me. And then I can just remember that I was always surrounded by horses because they were always at our place, and so I don't know. I must have been. I started vaulting when I was 5 or 6, and then
Wow.
I was always around horses and in the stable and try to feed the horses to please my grandfather and knock out the stables to just
Oh.
get his attention. And that was, yeah.
Oh, wonderful. So did he have a real sensitivity with horses as well?
He was well known, yeah, because he also was selected to choose the best horses for the Second World War for the generals, because they
Wow.
when they recruited all the horses, they had to find out which ones were the best ones. So he was chosen to, yeah, really say, okay, this horse is worthy to for a general, and this horse just for work or whatever. So he
Wow.
chose the horses, and then he was also responsible for the horses in Russia when they went to Russia.
Wow. So his affinity then obviously passed down to you, the just
Yes.
knowing horses.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. So you were a lot younger and you were with your grandfather. So then how did it develop? You worked with your grandfather for many, many years?
Yeah, what happened was that when I was 18, it was about choosing my profession. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I really want to work with horses, but everyone around me tells me, oh, you can't make money with horses. Like, if you just ask for 20 euros an hour, how will you ever make a living? And so I thought, maybe it's not such a good idea. And then I was at a personal development or coaching class, and they said everything is possible what you want for yourself in your life.
At
And
18. Amazing.
yeah,
Amazing.
so it was in Frankfurt sitting in this class, and I was thinking, if I can do, oh God, that makes me emotional. If I can do
Oh,
anything I want in this life, then I really want to work with horses.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
thank
and
you
that's
for
what I did.
sharing that. I'm feeling
That's what
that.
I did for
And I'm
20
so
years.
glad you did, because can you imagine if you listened to what everybody else was saying to you? Do
Yeah.
you want to take a moment?
It's okay. It's just
it's beautiful. But I mean, that is how much love you have for horses. You just know why you're here. I love that. That's incredible. Wonderful. And yeah, I'm welling up as well.
yeah.
Okay. I'll just have a little sip of water and then we can continue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So this actually leads on really nicely to what I wanted to talk to you about, how horses are teachers, because you obviously had this huge affinity you absolutely knew. And would you say that from a young age, when you were working with your grandfather and obviously he was teaching you and training you, did you really feel that when you were making that decision, it was the horses were helping you make that decision as well when you were 18?
Definitely, there was
Yeah.
no question about
Yeah.
it because they were my teachers all my life. They taught me more than my parents, and they were like a replacement for my parents in a way.
Mm.
And yeah, you can just learn so much from horses about like the herd rules or the herd hierarchy. Like they don't fight to show their love, they just are, and you have to like really apply, you have to have trust with them, but also equal amount of respect. So he teaches you, or the horses teaches you all about life basically,
Mm.
because it's the same if you have children. You have to have respect and also trust, and
Mm.
it's the same with dogs or with other people. You have to have this relationship and a language, a common language, and
Yeah.
leadership. And yeah, you learn all this when you work with horses.
And would you say they're like a mirror as well?
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. So you were 18. I'd like to, I don't want to delve too much into it, but when you were 18, so in the self-development class, you know, I'm doing this, then what happened?
Well, I just started. I was very clear that I didn't want to be someone who was doing something what everybody else does in
Yes.
Germany.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to go the usual German approach of learning to ride and learning to deal with horses. I wanted to go to the best horse people around the world. That so that if I would come back, that I would have a unique approach, so that everybody would search me out because
Mm-hmm.
I could do something that no one else could. And that,
Unique.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so that's why
Yeah.
I went to Pet Pirelli. Or first, I did all the classes around Europe that were available, and then I went to the Pirelli University or Academy or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and I spent there many years. And so every winter, most of the time in Colorado or Florida, and yeah, and then I was a Pirelli instructor and horse development specialist for many years. So my specialty were difficult horses,
Mm.
young horses.
And I imagine you actually taught the Pirelli Academy a thing or two yourself.
I don't know about that because always people have to like really also take it in, or yeah.
Mm. Well, we're all teachers and we're all students, aren't we? There's learning everywhere. There's classes everywhere. So yeah, brilliant. So from Pirelli, then you were going around the world and giving workshops, and that was with the academy, or that was separate from the academy?
It's always that you are self-employed. You are just an
Yeah.
instructor and you pay a license fee. And then my collaboration or collaboration
Yeah, your collaboration. Yeah.
ended in 2013 with Pirelli.
Mm.
And until then, I was traveling all around the world as an instructor, giving courses,
Mm-hmm.
clinics. And then I was just at the point where I thought, I want to incorporate more. Like, I want to learn from different people. And so that's why I went to see Linda Kohanov in Arizona. And then I went to see Caroline Resnick. And she lives in California, close to San Diego. And I also went to Walter Set in Canada, or I went to Switzerland to Freddie Knie Senior or Junior. And yeah, so I worked with a lot of different horsemen that were really famous.
Really well known. Yeah.
They all had a different approach. I also went to see Linda Tillington Jones in Hawaii. And so, yeah, because I just wanted to have a more well-rounded perspective and not just a singular approach or a
Absolutely.
narrow-minded approach.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's always been my thing, to have like different aspects
To
in
be like a sponge and take it
yeah,
all in.
yeah, instead
Yeah.
of just having my view limited or
Mm. No, I think that's a great way to live. Actually, is a great philosophy. It is respect everybody's way of doing things because we're all completely different, aren't we? Yeah,
yeah.
brilliant. Excellent. So, um, I'd like to talk to a little bit now. I mean, obviously, you continue the work with the horses. I mentioned that you're offering workshops for German speakers, and you will soon offer workshops for English speakers as well. But at the moment, your main project is I'd really like to hear about it if we may. So the main project is the protection and rehabilitation for animals and humans and nature. So could you talk to us a little bit about, I mean, obviously it says exactly what it is, but could you talk to us a little bit about how that came about, who's involved, what are your goals, what it's all about, please?
Yeah. So it's an association I'm currently founding with two other people.
Wonderful.
The goal is to have really ranches worldwide, where we would like take on animals that were hurt, that need our protection, and also rehabilitate them with in combination with traumatized humans. So that people can come that have experienced trauma like PTSD or anxiety, and we have traumatized animals, and they both can heal.
That's
So
beautiful.
it's like a win-win situation. And I also want these ranches to work in a permaculture way, so that we would also like grow our own fruits or vegetables or whatever on this land, so that we are completely self-sufficient. If you,
Sure.
yeah.
For those
So
of us, so those listeners who don't know exactly what permaculture is, could you explain it a little bit more, please?
So this, I'm not the expert about permaculture. Obviously, my mother is, because she has a huge garden,
Wow.
has it for over 20 years, and yeah, so she's the expert, and I always learn from her.
Mm.
But for me, it's really the question is how we can um, for example, if there have been pesticides on the land or whatever, or heavy metal poisoning or whatever, or radiations um, through, yeah. So then I just try with the help of minerals to remineralize the earth, that
Mhm.
the effect of this poisoning of the earth is reduced or like reversed. That's my
Sure.
goal,
So
really.
it's rebalancing the earth.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's just putting it in a very short sentence, but that's the way you describe it. That's how I felt. So it's just rebalancing, but in a
Yeah.
very gentle and natural way. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
Wonderful.
something that always fascinates me. Like if you see pictures of like pieces of earth where it's like completely deserted, and
Mm.
then it looks 20 years later, it looks like a paradise or
Yeah.
like an oasis, or
Amazing.
like
Yeah.
completely, yeah,
Rejuvenated
yeah,
because all
completely,
the chemicals have gone. It's just
yeah,
natural. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and that's something that personally fascinates me. And
Mm.
also because I've also experienced trauma, and I have always been looking how to overcome it. I also want this for other people to
Mhm.
heal from past trauma. And yeah, people and animals alike experience trauma, and so they can also heal themselves by helping each
That's
other.
really beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now that's incredible. It's a really, really, sorry, I'm getting messages for you, so I'm just trying to come back. That's a really, really beautiful, 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 beautiful. Okay. I will have a message for you afterwards. I'm still trying to continue the conversation. Okay, I will say the message afterwards. So it's so beautiful what you're doing. And you mentioned about the, so you're encouraging people who've experienced PTSD and they've experienced trauma. So did you experience that in your training? You worked with people because I've heard before where with horses being the mirrors, and I've heard how healing horses are in equine therapy. Could you talk a little bit about that side of things, and then we'll come back to talk about the project that you're working on?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, like the difference if I would go to a shrink or if I would do psychotherapy is that with horses, because they are communicating non-verbally, they access the subconscious way more directly than if we would go to a shrink and would just talk about it. Because sometimes we all had the experiences that just talking about it doesn't fix it or doesn't heal it, because some talk about it for 40 years and it just brings it up,
back
but
up again.
it doesn't solve it or heal it.
Yeah.
And I tried this approach like after I finished my cooperation with Pirelli, and I was at a ranch to try it out. And I just did some drawing beforehand about my new vision. And then I just sat down in the pasture, and there were just 3 horses coming to me, and I was sitting there, and they were just breathing into my hair, and it touched me, and there were just tears running down my face, and they didn't even have to say a word, you know. And this is somehow, you always release attachment when you're crying, but it's also that they bring up deep things that if I would have talked to anyone at that point, probably no one would have gotten to that point or to that level.
Silence is golden. You know, silence is golden, and it's the energy, isn't it? It's that beautiful energy.
Yeah.
And I would imagine also very shamanic, because getting to the root rather than talking around it, like you mentioned, for 40 years, it's getting to the actual core of the issue.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
And for me personally, it was always like, you know, my dream goal was always to ride in the Olympics. And I was very ambitious, and I always wanted to train hard, and I had such a strong focus. And then at one point, it really shifted into this more going into a more therapeutic approach. And yeah, so
You knew at 18, the universe decided what the horses decided for you, actually. So the other 2 people you're working with the project on, so I keep using the word beautiful because that's all I can feel. I just feel it's so beautiful that nature, animals, humans can all heal together. So you've combined the permaculture, healing the land. You've combined horses animals as well, I imagine, who haven't had the best start in life, bless them, and they're now cocooned in a really beautiful, loving environment. And then human beings, it's all sentient beings together. It's gorgeous, healing together. So so you mentioned you're working with another 2 people. So where is that going to be based? Is it worldwide? Is it an incentive to go everywhere?
Yeah, definitely. So the goal would be to have ranches worldwide. And I don't know if I can't do it all alone. So I have some people that I want to approach in different countries, or have already approached in different countries, and we will just see how it develops, so that there will be a worldwide network of ranches and people who just follow the same goal or message to do this in that way.
Gorgeous, because the world's changing, isn't it? I mean, we've been speaking so much about how we're going towards matriarchy, and it's and the world is changing, because veganism, which I'm delighted about, I don't necessarily say it's a trendy thing, but it's very, very popular, which is wonderful. And I wouldn't have thought that 4 or 5 years ago, because there was a real kind of stigma of, oh yeah, if you're vegan, you're a hippie. But it's everywhere, which is fantastic. And there's so many of us who are, changing habits and eating more plant-based and wanting to get closer to to animals. So, and with all your experience, do you have any words of wisdom of how our viewers, how our readers and listeners can get closer to their pets or get closer to nature? Is there anything that you would recommend at all?
Well, the easiest thing for me after a stressful day is always if I just go and pet my horse, or if I just sit and lean with my back against the tree and just connect with the tree, or do a walk in nature. And like I said before I was very ambitious, and
Yes.
then I went to therapeutic. And when I was so ambitious, I always made fun of all these people that were just doing some groundwork with their horses and just some grooming or just sitting in the pasture. And I was always like, this is ridiculous, really. What are you people doing? And I was
What are
really
you
have a
doing?
lot of respect for them, because I really didn't get it. I was like, that's not like, you're not reaching any purpose, or you're not, and I never really got it. And then my desire grew for just this peace and just this connection, and that it can just be enough to just like pet a horse or whatever. And that's fascinating to me, this shift that happened inside of myself, because I couldn't imagine it. Really, I was convinced that I will never deviate from like being an Olympic athlete.
Focus.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was like complete shift, like from this goal to like more therapeutic and more healing and more connection. Gorgeous. And nature, that this is more important than this goal.
But mind you, saying that's mean actually, because I'm saying focus, taking the mickey out of it. But everybody needs a lot of focus to achieve what you've achieved anyway. So what I'm talking about is more when we're younger and it gets instilled into us that you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to work a certain way, because that's the people around us, that were their survival techniques, I guess. So it can get kind of layered down. So I think a lot of us at the moment, would you say we're kind of breaking through old patterns? And that's why a beautiful incentive that you're creating will, I feel, really encourage people to break through and to come and heal. I think that's wonderful. And how will you be putting the word out there? So do you have anything that we can share for people to see yet, or is it all in the making at the moment?
So I wrote 3 books that are
wow. Okay.
So, and not all of them are available in English yet. I wrote one about like different approaches to healing for horses. So it's about natural health. How do I call it? Horse health naturally, and it's available on Amazon. And this is a little booklet where you can just take it into your stable, and if your horse has something like laminitis or is sick in any way, I just describe the things I experienced that they will help and that are natural, like biosalts, herbs, homeopathics, bacterics, minerals, all these things. And it's a little combination or compilation of things that
both really it's a combination of a compilation.
Yeah. So this is my little booklet, and then it's a original.
It doesn't sound like a little booklet. It sounds like an incredible grimoire to have, actually.
And then the original book is my book, Horse Whisperer's Handbook. And this I just translated at the moment. It's already available in German. In German, it's called Leitfaden für Pferdeflüsterer.
Okay, I won't try to repeat that back.
Horse Whisperer's Handbook. And yeah, so I'm currently translating it, and this is also available. And then I have another one that's more spiritual, and it's called Spiritual Mysteries. But this one is only available in German at the moment. Okay. Yeah, so this is how like people can read about it. And yeah, I will do more workshops in the future, also again about healing for horses and people.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So but what I do, if someone really wants to work with me, I can also always do over the phone or over Zoom private sessions for the horses or just for them personally. That's also.
You read my mind. Thank you. That was my next question. How can people work one-to-one with you? And so it's possible to do the sessions over Zoom as well. Brilliant.
Zoom or over the phone. And because most of my classes that I'm currently giving are in German, like my shamanic group or other horse classes, so it's easier at the moment to do it one-on-one.
Sure. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's been absolutely gorgeous. Thank you so much. I've got so many more questions, but I've actually got messages for you I'm going to tell you afterwards.
Yeah.
But I just find you inspirational. I find you Wonder Woman. I think I mentioned that to you before we came on, actually. It's really beautiful what you've created. You're hugely inspirational. And I can see a book coming from your project as well. I can see so many wonderful things for you and all you're giving to the world. So thank you. And I wish you so many blessings with all your projects and all your love in the world.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Ho.